Well, Paulina should have been here, unfortunately, but I think still now the moment is over. I should have noticed that she hadn't come back. But can we just proceed with the presentation? And who should, well, we'll pass it to Paulina. She's missed, but she's in our thoughts. So please, members, if you could come over. Greg, Luke.
Maybe in front of the banner.
Where? We'll do it here.
Paulina is coming. Paulina is coming in 3 minutes.
Okay.
Can we wait for
Okay. And if our members don't mind, can we wait for Paulina? Is that all right? Okay. So I will hold it for a few minutes more.
Queda. You can replace her like that.
We'll do that.
I keep it.
You keep it for the time being. Just leave it there. Can I say then in the few minutes, hopefully the 2 or 3 minutes for Paulina to come here, we have Marion Karen here, and I want to applaud in Marion's presence. Marion, I want to recognize in your presence your fantastic work. I'd mentioned other members of the Secretariat, but in addition to you being an invaluable member of the Secretariat, I know how hard you worked every single month, particularly to organize social events, which were an important part of the work of the ICCBA. All bars require that camaraderie that is built up in a social setting. Outside work, it allows bonds to be closer for people to not feel intimidated to approach people they may otherwise only see in robes, or to allow counsel also to meet support staff and legal assistants and individuals from other teams, counsel from other teams, in a more informal setting. And your work really has been massive. I know you're busy with other matters. I know you've done it when you're well and when you're not well, and your commitment is something I think on behalf of all of us as the Bureau and on behalf of the whole executive, we applaud you. So thank you so much.
Karim?
And now we have...
if I may, I will add that at the level of the Secretariat, she have done a fantastic work with translations in French, and sometimes with a short notice. Elle a procédé à des traductions en français pour que notre travail puisse rester autant que faire possible bilingue. Et je voudrais la remercier en tant que secrétaire pour cela. Où est-ce qu'elle... Ah, ben elle est là. Merci, Mario.
And also, just to that, Nadim Mansour, who is here, very modestly sitting at the back, for his work with translation, particularly the newsletters and others. So Nadim, thank you so much. And you sit quietly behind the camera, not in front of it. Nothing could be more vivid, an expression of the role that you've played, but it's very much appreciated. I wanted to recognize Paulina. Paulina, I had said in your absence that I have a surprise, which is no longer a surprise to everybody else, but a surprise for you. I've established a prize, a President's Prize, that every year the President of the ICCBA will feel free to give to the committee of her choice or his choice going forward. And I think it's important, I said to others, that this creates some kind of healthy competition for committees to do better last year than they did this year. And I've decided that this year, look at her dancing in the background. This year I've decided it goes to the Victims Committee, so please come up and we can do the presentation. very much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm really troubled that some things happened in the presidency I really never noticed. Thank you very much.
So thank you to everybody for their patience. We'll move to the next agenda item, and that will be the financial report of our Treasurer. Our Treasurer had a very difficult task because he followed a fantastic Treasurer in Natalie, who's here, and she was a member, of course, of the executive last year. I have tried, I wish she had stood for the executive again this year, but what I can say is even though you were a massive loss, and always you would be a fantastic addition to the executive or any committee of the ICCBA because of your fantastic qualities and your experience, Natalie, we were well served this year by the work of Emile. So, Emile, thank you for your help, and if you could present your report. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I spoke French yesterday at the French panel. So yesterday I will be speaking in English, and I want to tell you that Catherine and Philippe, you were not there yesterday, so it's your fault, okay? So next time try to be at the French panel. Again, good morning. I hope that everybody is fine here. As you know, a budget is the primary instrument which gives life to the aspirations of any association. I think it's one of the major mechanisms through which any association can affect improvements in the quality of its activities. Since my appointment as Treasurer of ICCBA, I have been very prudent about any kind of expenses. And I think my learned friends from the Executive Council can easily witness that fact. Going straight to the point, what is the current situation at the ICCBA? As I said yesterday in French, ICCBA is a young association. And I want to give you, especially that we are celebrating today, the beginning of its third year. Actually, ICCBA has 360 members divided into the three forms of membership. We have 200 full members, 60 associate members, and 100 affiliate members. So I'm asking you now to go to this document, Annual Reports 2017-2018. Could you go to the last 2 pages, please? You can see first, the first page, the balance sheet as of June 26, 2018. And then the second page, profit and loss, 1st July 2017 until 26th of June 2018. And the last page will be the provisional budget for 2019. So, for the first page, which is balance sheet. Actually, if we go to our bank account, we have an amount of 15,855 euros. Is this clear? Second page. So, in the profit and loss document, we can see the income. We are talking about the 1st July 2017 until the 26th of June 2018. And then the expenses. And finally, we can see the net earnings, and we see an amount of 4,194 euros. Do you have any question about any detail? If it's not clear, please tell me. Please.
J'ai une question, Émile. Qu'est-ce que c'est la dépense consultancy services?
Excuse me?
Consultancy services.
This is the salary paid to the executive director of the ICCBA.
OK, merci.
Mr. Kennedy.
Merci.
Okay. Any other question?
No, not from us.
So, if we go to the last page, we see the provisional budget starting the 1st of July 2018 to the 30th of June 2019. I think you see the membership fees. We are putting the numbers and the new fees. Because if you go to the full members, previously it was 125 euros. So now it's 150. And for the associate members, it was 60. Now, no, excuse me, it was 75, and now it's 90. And affiliate members, it was 25, and now it's 50. So this was agreed by the Executive Council, and I think that it's very fair to have such fees because really ICCBA needs more money. So if you go to the second part, you see the expenses. So for the membership fees, with the new numbers, we'll have like about 40,000 per year. Is that clear? Okay. So let's go to the expenses. So you can see again consultancy, and then organization cost, and then events. And then you can see the total of 28,300 euros. And this also was agreed by the Executive Council. So, Mr. President, I'm inviting you to ask for the approval of the General Assembly regarding what was explained.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Treasurer.
Thank you.
So can we put the budget that's been proposed by the Treasurer and endorsed by the Executive Council, the budget for 2018 and 2019, are there any objections, or can we take it as approved by the General Assembly? Those in favour, can they say aye? Aye. Anybody against? So we take it that the budget for 2018 to 2019 is hereby approved by the General Assembly. Can I thank once again the work of the Treasurer? It's a difficult task. For the sake of clarity, the ASP expenditure of 1,500 euros, just to clarify, it was simply for the purpose of printing various documents that we had to give to the state parties because it was just too much to carry and it had to be done in New York. So that was the only expenditure from the ICCBA budget. It was the printing costs in New York. So thank you for that. We'll move to the next item, which is the constitutional amendments. And for that, perhaps if you don't mind, respective Treasurer and Vice Presidents, I would ask that I be joined with by the Chair of the Legal Advisory, by Dr. Karin Bausman, by Anand Shah, who've worked on these amendments. Of course, they've been in 3 categories. I hope we won't take too long, but perhaps they can also join me at the moment. Thank you so much. So please, if you can come up, Anand. So what we've done, I'm grateful, there are, you've all got it, there are 3 broad categories of amendments. The first 2, A and B, that we're going to go through quite quickly, have been endorsed by the Executive Council. The first category A deal with substantive amendments, and we can really just go straight to page 3 in relation to Part 2 and Article 3, which is self-evident. What we're seeking to do is to delete the requirement for associate membership requiring 5 years relevant experience in international criminal law. We all know, and I think this was the unanimous agreement really of the Executive Council, that legal assistants are critical, but so are case managers and other support staff. And we think it's only appropriate that those critical players who are support staff, whether they be case managers, whether they be trial support, if they're working on a case, they have the right, if they wish, to join as associate members. And the proposal that's detailed in paragraph 3 is to that effect. So are there any objections to that proposal, or can we take it as accepted? Or if anybody wishes to discuss, of course, that's the right, but we have quite a few to go through. Can we accept it? No objections? So we take that as accepted. Cyril, do you want to do the next one? Article 10?
Or maybe you want to do it? Sure. Anand will do it.
Yeah, Anand, thank you.
Great. The next amendment comes under Article
3.
Let's see.
3.
Yeah, Article 3. And yes, we're seeking to do here, this was an amendment that was also raised last year. I think it barely missed the appropriate number of votes for passage last year. This is to widen the category of affiliate membership. And it simply, instead of the current requirement is demonstrable experience in international criminal law, and the Executive Council proposes that that be widened to simply say an interest in international criminal law. And this would allow a broader number of persons to join the organization, given the mandate of the ICCBA. It's a global mandate, and the Executive Council felt it was important to broaden the membership base. So, are there any views on this amendment to broaden the basis on which one can become an affiliate member?
And I think the way we should put it is the General Assembly content to go with the recommendation of the Executive Council and accept the amendment? Or if there's any discussion required or opposition, please feel free to speak out. So let me put it, can we agree? Any objections? No. So we'll take it that is also accepted by the unanimous vote of those present. Moving on, Cyril, to the next article, please.
Okay, I will do the Article 10. Well, that proposal is actually codifying a practice that has developed over the year and that has been followed by the Executive Council, that is to receive from time to time representatives, can be the chair or another representative of committees, to present views on a specific topic. Well, that was a practice that I think was unanimously welcomed by the Executive Council, and that was very, very positive and very refreshing to get directly the input from the committees, and so that's what is proposed now.
So once again, is this accepted? Yes. Any opposition? No. So that is unanimously accepted. Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Article 12, Dr. Bausman, please. Caroline.
Yes, thank you. Article 12 is really a matter of convenience, in fact, because just to simplify the procedure. So we propose this amendment to remove the requirement of convening a General Assembly for the sole purpose of replacing an Executive Council member, because, well, as I said, it just is a complicated thing to organize that at each of these occasions. So that's why we have included this provision. It would better align the process of replacing the Executive Council members with that applicable to replacing committee members. So.
Thank you so much. Can this be accepted by the Assembly? Yes. Any opposition? So we take that article, that amendment also to be carried. Article 14, it speaks for itself. It's important, as has been alluded to a couple of times already, that those that stand for office understand the responsibility and expectations that are placed upon them by our membership. And we have seen examples in which some committees operate better than others. So what Article 14 seeks to do is to make it clear what's expected. If a member is absent on 3 consecutive meetings without a valid excuse, the member is deemed to have resigned. And I think this is quite important. There is a safeguard, because before that, the chair of the committee or the other committee member will ensure that the person is written to and giving them a final chance for an explanation. But if none is received, no adequate or proper explanation is received, that person will be deemed to have resigned, a vacancy will arise, and the issue of the vacancy and how that is then filled is dealt with by way of subsequent articles that we'll come to. Is that accepted by the Assembly? Discussion. Please. Do we have a microphone? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. So the discussion that I'd like to have about this particular provision, if I can be permitted to begin with a kind of a Canadian colloquialism, this provision strikes me as a large hammer to break a small nut. The small nut, in my mind, is the obligation that we all recognize that a committee member has to participate and be present, at least on reasonable occasions. That's not in dispute at all, of course. But the large hammer here seems to me that this provision allows for people, not of good intention, perhaps, but of situations that could be of ill intention, to use for purposes that we didn't intend. And by that I mean, there's this discussion, or there's this reference to a valid excuse, but there's no definition of what a valid excuse might be. There's no indication as to who's going to determine what a valid excuse would be. And although there is reference to 3 consecutive meetings of the committee, there's also this reference to the committee meetings taking place with a variety of circumstances, by telephone, by email, and so forth. It's frankly plausible, under the way that this is drafted, that certain committee members could meet by email or communication, cut someone else out. They're not part of that email communication or that particular phone call. And on 3 of these particular occasions, perhaps a disagreeable or an unpleasant or an unwanted committee member could easily be extracted from the committee which has been voted on by the General Assembly, so that we would be putting here in the hands of uncertain persons the power to remove a committee member when that committee member has been duly elected. And although it may be the case that a committee member who doesn't appear repeatedly and isn't participating is a nuisance and perhaps legitimately unwanted, it would seem to me that the remedy for that really is that at the General Assembly that person would stand for election again perhaps and not be elected. Okay. So I would prefer that this particular provision not be adopted in the way it is. It could, as I say, if it's a small nut, it could perhaps be addressed simply by the signing of a declaration of intent to provide adequate services through the committee members, or something of that sort.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments before I address that? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
And perhaps just for the record, if names can be given as well before... yes, thank you, Drew.
Good morning. Does it work? Yes. My name is Marcus Wagemakers. Good morning. I have a suggestion. I fully agree with you. And as it stands now, the text, it is a matter of statute whether or not one of our colleagues would step down from a committee. You could make it, it's a suggestion, a chairman's decision, considering the opinion or heard the president or the executive committee. So of course we should safeguard that the committees are working and that we do not have members on it who don't do anything. But I think there should be a measure in place to dismiss such a member, but it could be at the discretion of the chairman of this particular committee.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm grateful to Drew White and to Marcus, if you don't mind me calling you by your first name, for those suggestions. I actually don't think, with respect, that it's a large hammer at all. The position that's been experienced by the Executive Committee, by the Executive Council, and indeed it was even experienced last year to a different form, is that some individuals get elected and then they hibernate. And it has come into stark contrast. For example, certain decisions require, a quorum. Certain decisions also need to be discussed. And we've had certain experiences, and I will say the membership committee is one, in which because of a failure for all members to work equally hard all the time, the Executive Council has had to be the repository to make certain decisions that the Constitution says reside in the committee. And that's not satisfactory. Now, I actually take a different view with respect. I think it is more discriminatory and more dangerous to have a position in which a committee can simply vote off another member, because that becomes ripe for issues of personality to be a cause for removal. So the language we took from this, and I make no bones about it, it was discussed extensively in the committee, but for example, in one of the committees I work on, at the Bar Representation Committee of Lincoln's Inn, it's parochial, we have exactly the same language that we use to ensure that members who are representing the inn have an important role in terms of their responsibilities. And we say there that if an individual is absent for 3 meetings without lawful excuse, without proper excuse, they'll be deemed to have resigned. Now, the danger that has been posited is, with respect, I think, more theoretical than real. Because, firstly, the condition is without valid excuse. If there's been a pernicious attempt of a committee to deliberately exclude an individual from being notified of the meeting, of course, ipso facto, they would have a valid excuse. Secondly, that conduct itself may give rise to professional misconduct on part of the committee members that seek to deliberately circumvent and keep aside a member that the Professional Standards Advisory Committee may look into, or even the Executive Committee may look into. And it's not happened. We've never seen that example this year, and I don't believe we saw that last year. Thirdly, there is a safeguard that will deal with the concern that Drew White put forward of a rogue committee somehow playing some funny games, which is, God forbid if that happens, and it hasn't happened so far, there is a right of appeal to the Executive Council. So for all of those reasons, I do think there needs to be a device that is workable, that allows committees to do their job. The expense and difficulty of holding a General Assembly is really exceptionally difficult. It can't be justified in terms of economy. It can't be justified in terms of cost to call a whole General Assembly to have a new election because of somebody else. So my own view, and we can put it now to the vote, unless there's anything else to be said, I am still in favour of this constitutional amendment so that we can make sure committees that are elected attend. People should give reasons, and if they don't give reasons for 3 meetings, in other words, they just disappear until the following election, when by some magic they appear, it allows decisions to be taken at committee level. So can we put that to the vote? Can everybody in favour of the proposal please put their hand up? Dominic, will you count? Okay. Anybody against? 2. Can you call it, Dominic, as the elections? No, proxies don't count for these issues, only for the elections, because there needs to be transparency. Ah, so sorry, I stand corrected.
There's 11 proxies in the room on top of everybody in the room. So we need 2/3, and yeah, with the majority here, we've got 2/3 of everybody present partaking in the General Assembly. So it's passed.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go, and thank you though for the contributions of our colleagues, Mr. Drew White and also Marcus. With that, we'll move on to Article 16, I believe. Yep. And perhaps Cyril or Anand?
Sure. This is a very simple proposed amendment. It's just to allow the Executive Council statutory flexibility when it comes to finances and expenditures. As it currently stands, this article requires that the General Assembly authorize funds that come from sources that are outside of the fees of the membership. The Executive Council has already taken the view that it has the authority on an ad hoc basis to accept funds from different sources, and this would simply institutionalize this in the Constitution, this authority.
So can this proposed amendment, is it accepted? Anybody against? So we take it as accepted. Article 33, Dr. Cyril.
I will use the English version of the text because I have only the French here. So that's an amendment on the termination of membership. Actually, there are 2 amendments to Article 33, which are creating 2 additional causes of the loss of membership. The first one is the non-payment of the annual membership fee after a delay of 60 days after the expiration of the time limit for its payment. And the second one is a little bit more under subparagraph E, a little bit more detailed, and it's in the situation where there is a determination that membership should be terminated further to a request by a member or national professional body having authority over the member in question. And that can be for various causes, including failure to pay the annual membership fees. So that's the proposal that... Yes, that's yeah. Or it's already in the Constitution because that's exactly the same language as we have for the suspension of membership, but that is in a way escalated to the termination. We had the report from our treasurer, who has been instrumental in supporting this amendment. So that's, yeah, in light of the financial situation of the ICCBA, that's an amendment that was considered important to have.
Thank you so much for that, Cyril.
Thank you, Anna.
Can that be agreed by the Assembly? Anybody against? So that's taken as carried. Next article, Caroline.
Actually, we finished.
Yes, absolutely. So we finished List A. We're now on page 8, which is List B, and this is not additions, but deletions, effectively, from the Constitution. So the first is Article 38, and Dr. Bausman will deal with that, please.
Sorry. In a way, this is, again, it's just to make things simpler and more coherent. We actually propose to change the reference to rules and procedure to resolutions, internal directives, and the reason being that the Executive Council, by virtue of Article 10(6), has the authority to adopt internal directives or procedures as necessary for the functions and the day-to-day operation and management. So, and this is not the same for the rules of procedure. So it kind of makes sense to refer to the resolutions, internal directives instead of the rules of procedure. So I don't think this is very controversial, but if it is, we'd like to hear it now. I thought you were opposing, but...
So is that amendment accepted? Yes? No objections? So that's accepted. Thank you very much. So we're now finally on item C. Now, I want the leave of the Assembly. Item C has not been endorsed by the Executive Council or committee members. It deals with a proposal that proposes that from the next election, terms will be for 2 years, not 1 year. And there's various options put forward. What I propose, or what I would suggest, is either we debate it, but as there hasn't been an agreement in the Council, that we simply leave it because it's a little bit complicated. There hasn't been an agreement from the Executive Council. There are competing arguments because I think it's quite useful sometimes to have yearly elections. You can change people, get new blood, particularly if we're more successful in having more members from different parts of the world that are less represented and more women. We can actually modify issues to ensure geographical balance and gender balance. Of course, against that, the argument is every year we spend some time on elections and it should be extended for 2 years for continuity. Now, it's a matter for the Assembly. This actually, we've included it, but it hasn't been formally proposed by the Executive Council. It hasn't come from the floor, and for that reason, I simply say we don't consider it. But so these are the options. Those who agree, we simply delete it and let the Executive Council that's formed next year decide upon it if they wish to. And if there's a concrete, fixed proposal as to the best course of conduct, it can be presented next year. That's the option. But if the Assembly wish to have a proper debate on it, that's also fine. So my proposal is we simply don't proceed to spend time on a matter that doesn't have consensus, doesn't have the agreement, and is not formally adopted. Okay, excellent. So with that, I think we have dealt with the is that the constitutional amendments?
Yeah, that's it.
Wonderful. So that deals. I thank very much. I thank very much the work of the Legal Advisory Committee on this. It's been excellent, and I'm glad we dealt with these matters rather swiftly, because otherwise it can be quite tedious. So thank you very much for their help. So can I just say I wanted to thank enormously the interpreters for their patience and their work. Thank again the registrar for making you available. Can I say, if ever the day comes when the registrar doesn't make you available, can we ask for your pro bono assistance in advance? Because really you are invaluable. And it's very... We can't do proper service to the 2 working languages, and it results effectively in discriminatory treatment in favor of one language and against another, unless we have the critical professional services of yourself. So we are trying, hopefully in the next President and the next Executive Council will make appropriate arrangements, I hope, to establish an MOU with the registrar But I was serious and actually not joking. If we don't have that, or if we're told only to have 1 day a year or something very stingy, please view requests with an open heart, because it's really so important. It's been, as I said, a great privilege representing, or trying my best to represent the ICCBA this year. My colleagues have been fantastic. I apologize for mistakes that I may have made. I think you're in the very best of hands with the President-elect being here, but we must go through formalities. And so I'll cede the chair to the presiding officer for the elections, our redoubtable Executive Director, Dominic Kennedy. Thank you so much.
Okay, as elections chair, you should have all received your ballot papers, and the elections are officially open for 2 hours and 40 minutes now. As there's only one candidate for president, I can duly announce that Chief Charles Taku is president from this moment forward. Elections of ballots have been cast, so votes are in, which fulfills the Constitution, and therefore I'm pleased to announce Chief. Are you going to do it now? Yeah, okay. I'll let you.
Je vais continuer en français.
I shall continue in the French language. There is a point that we did forget.
Maybe it will be easier to make it in English. En français.
In French. Well, there was a point or a matter on the agenda that we did forget to address, and it is my duty as secretary to make sure that the agenda is complete, and completed, in fact. Now, the former executive committee convened a few days ago, and we decided, for the first time in the history of our association and our institution, in fact, to elevate to the rank of president, honorary president of our board, the former president, Karim Khan. Now, just a second. Now, the executive committee is only proposing, and it is the Assembly General that is sovereign and has the power of decision to either accept or reject this proposal. If you accept it and stand to your feet, then S.G. Khan will be the first honorary president of our association.
Il y a une demande de prise de parole. Madame Catherine Mavie, vous avez la parole.
You may address. I do not see any inconvenience whatsoever for Mr. Karim Khan to be given the title of honorary member, but we need also to mention Mr. Hooper, who was the first member of the was the first president, apologies, of the ICCBA. Well, it is not on the agenda, and it was not proposed by the Executive Committee, but I suggest that the following or next Executive Committee make such a proposal, and then it will be decided upon by the first Assembly, General Assembly after that. And I thank you very much for your proposal, Madame Mabille. If there are no further observations, and once again, I call the honorary president to the table, Karim Khan.
Je laisse le président Charles Takou.
And I leave President Charles Pacou, that is the president of the ICCBA, the task of handing him a gift.
You have always been a leader.
It's fine.
Yeah. Karim, even before our association was founded, you've always defended the objectives of the rule of law, the objectives for which we now stand, for which our association was created. You've been victims' counsel. You've been the prosecutor. You've been defense counsel. You've been to all the courts of the world. You spend most of your professional life standing for the objectives of justice, as the case might be. We, your colleagues, will recognize that. We recognize your leadership. We know, Karim, you will remain with us. It is difficult, Karim, for you to be confined in one particular position. And we thank you in the most, we recognize that. And this is a token. And Karim will remain eternally very, very grateful. Your counsel, your wise counsel, your leadership. Maybe we'll have other presidents, starting with me, I'm another president. But Karim, you will always be there. You will always stand for the values that we know very well. They have taken you, advocating and fighting for the recognition that we have today. And thank you very much, my dear brother Karim.
No, thank you. I'm feeling very touched. Thank you very much. Very touched.
Yeah. Thank you. And on behalf of the executive, on behalf of all the lawyers, you fought for gender balance. You fought for every value for which you stand. And apart from that, you've taken our values to the amphitheaters, the classroom around the world. You opened the doors. These affiliations we're having today shows our strength. And I wanted to say that in the remarks I will make, that for those our colleagues who are not here, for those who are still to join the organization, these affiliations clearly indicate to them that we are recognized everywhere in the world. And you've made a point, one of the legacies that we must fight for, one of the principles, and it is, Karim, is that compulsory membership. If the Assembly of State Parties have recognized us as the platform and the voice of participants in proceedings, both from the victims and for the defense, then all other counsel coming within the institution must be members, must participate in order to move along with the values that have been established by the Assembly of State Parties, by us, and we will fight for that. That is the very first thing, because that is your conception, and that is one of the ideas, concrete contributions. To show the honor and respect we have to you, we must fight to attain that compulsory membership.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. May I just be permitted, Mr. President, to say I'm truly very touched. The kindness is completely undeserved, because as the Secretariat know and as the members know, the work this year has been done entirely by the Secretariat, by the two Vice Presidents, Chief Charles Taku and Jens, of course Dominic, Keita, Emil, and every member of the committees and the executive. And really that's the lesson. We must stand united, we must work together, we're colleagues. We're not divided, whether we're victims or for the defense. We're members of a bar. We're now members of an international criminal court bar. And so the privilege was completely mine. But the kind token and the very moving gesture just now, completely undeserved. It is very humbling, and thank you very much.
And now I'd like to give the final word of the day to our new president, Chief Charles Taku.
Our distinguished Honorable President, dear colleagues, it is extremely difficult for me to stand here in all humility to thank you immensely and to thank our distinguished friend, Ms. Karim Khan, and the Executive Council and all the members, all the participants in the administration of justice in this prestigious and distinguished association. And although we're here, but we know that our proceedings are being watched the world over. And also, in the last years or so, we know that the activity of the ICC have attracted a lot of attention worldwide. There were people who were knocking on the door to contribute to the administration of justice in the ICC and also to help to repair some of the problems we've had. They came to see us and this association as the gatekeepers to the defense of the original objectives of the Rome Statute, whose 20th anniversary we celebrate. They've also come, distinguished Honorable President, dear colleagues, to understand why the victims and the defense belong to the same organization and defended by the same, their interests are defended by counsel. Very often, the victims and accused persons belong to the same communities. And therefore, before, during, and after the proceedings, they or their families will return to the same community and be defended by the same professional, the same group of people, by the same professional, by ourselves, will contribute to reconciliation in those communities. I've had to litigate with some victims' counsel in some cases, and my colleague Bev Lyons and others will know. And we found that they presented a case which was far wider than what we found in the charges, underscoring the need that we have to repair an injustice in the statute where some think that they can anchor the right and the interest of victims only to the charges. There must be a mechanism that once the evidence laid out, and that evidence laid out clearly, in the way I see developing some cases that they lay a wider case for the victims, those rights should be recognized irrespective of the outcome of the cases. And the reason is that when you anchor on the outcome of the cases, you put undue influence on victim representation, sometimes to try to align themselves with a particular position in the case. That ought not to be the case. And therefore, I totally think that the prize we gave to our colleagues, the victims, was merited because I've seen them. I've also litigated most of you here in many of the courses over the past 20 years, Karim, sometimes with you, many of our colleagues here, and I found that we have the finest brains, the finest professionals who have the authority to talk, to be the voice, and the eyes and the brains of the world with regard to the issues in this court. And I also believe that our association has come to be a platform and a voice for the rest of the world, all the other professionals. And as I said, these affiliations is pointed to that, And again, I reiterate before I go to the substance of my statements that there must be compulsory membership, because we cannot have individuals who come within an institution that has been recognized by Assembly of State Parties, and they try to bring different standards and into the courtroom, into the process. And when they get problems on the way, they turn to us, or they turn to the court, or they try to handle this matter with themselves. That will bring some form of judicial chaos, professional chaos, which will be unacceptable. And therefore, that said, this words, ICCBA is entering into its third year, after a productive and successful second year led by an honorary president, Karim Khan QC. Much progress has been made. From a fledgling association, the ICCBA has matured into an established part of the ICC landscape. We have made many achievements. Karim Khan and my other colleagues have mentioned some of them, such as we're invited to ASP in New York to present a speech, very well received speech. And just pray to the Almighty God to inspire me to attain that level of delivery and eloquence with which our President Karim Khan delivered that speech. I was a witness to the history, and I was a witness to state parties, the respect and the attention which they paid when our President spoke for all of us. In fact, he spoke for the world. He spoke for the idea of justice, international justice. And he reassured the rest of the world that we were indeed a platform and a voice for which the rest of the world, professional world, can participate in the administration of justice at the ICC, and why not international law generally. There was a signing of affiliation agreements with the Pan-African Bar in which many judges participated here. And also, of course, I will mention the Mexican Bar, especially the criminal bar, representing more than 30,000 lawyers. They came here with a member of the diplomatic mission of Mexico. I was there with Mr. Keita, representing the president, and in which they expressed the problem in rewriting their criminal code on criminal procedure, because it is really, really problematic, and they thought that they could have the expertise from our membership to help them train their lawyers and also to help them in the redrafting of those laws. We will pursue that mission with the Mexican bar and other bars requiring our expertise. We also had the gaining under your leadership, standing and recognition through attending the opening of the judicial year and the swearing-in ceremony of the new judges and the new registrar. The key institution of the court finally recognized that we were partners, not outsiders. We regret that the outgoing registrar did not quite recognize this, but the new leadership of the court and the new registrar have demonstrated clearly that they are willing to work with us and are prepared to help this institution succeed. We are prepared to cooperate with any other one who will support our objectives and who will defend the objectives, the original objectives of the Rome Statute. We met meeting with many of the registrar's candidates and providing a report. We met we were provided opportunity by the ASP to interview or to be associated with the process of the election of the new registrar. And many of the candidates came before us, who asked the questions, who gave an honest report to the judges, and we're very proud that we participated in making a determination, key determination, on the running of the institution for which our position and leadership has been recognized. Signing a call action plan for gender parity international representation. And that's very, very significant. As our president said, we cannot have an organization or a male-dominated. We know from the courtroom across the world the power and eloquence of our colleagues, our female colleagues. We know their determination to work. We also know from our support staff, and of course, when you come to this court in the corridors, most of the interns will play a major role in the court here. Most of them are female. May I stop, please, and let us recognize the presence of the Honorable Excellency, the prosecutor. Yeah, I continue. Yeah. I continue. Yeah. Okay. Now, we can go on and on, but we want to make sure that this organization will respect the highest ethical standards, that we do not come here to resolve problems and become the problems ourselves. Those who are admitted to practice law everywhere in the world respect those standards. Through this organization, the training, you heard the report from the different committees. And you find that our committees will go to the amphitheaters across the world, different universities across the world, different organizations across the world, are a voice that the world listens to now. And therefore, our commitment is to make sure that we keep those standards, or keep them properly, so that we are respected. We want that it's not just the executive committee or the president. We want to have a permanent liaison in our executive director with the organs of the court, so that they don't go around the corridors looking for us. They know that on a permanent basis, we have an executive director, and also not just for the organs of the court, but with all of you. And any problem, you get to our executive director. So we can have that permanent dialogue. One, an institutional discussion, institutional dialogue. Because the institutional dialogue, it helps us to avoid unnecessary problems. Many of the things that were set under our honorary president, distinguished president, have not been achieved. You got some of the reports, meaning that if I had my way, you have continued as a president for as long as possible to realize the objectives. Our constitution does not allow so. But he is still within us. He is still one of us. He is still there to guide us. And in all humility, Mr. President, we will always listen to your voice. We will always listen to that. My focus as president will be providing the continuity required in order to work towards achieving ICBA's long-term objective. Étant l'un des vice-présidents pendant les 2 mandats précédents, moi je m'engage à continuer à soutenir et réaliser les objectifs qui ont été fixés par notre frère et notre ami, M. Karim Khan Kursi. Building on the vision provided by Karim Khan and the work that ICB has done towards implementing them, I will share with you today 7 of the main objectives I have for the ICBA over the coming year. Legal aid. Of course, before that, I've specified mandatory leadership, because the effort the institution of this court put in place to get the recognition from ASP and the effort and the recognition by the ASP is a clear indication that any lawyer, anybody coming to participate in this issue must be a member of the association to realize the objectives which the ASP has accepted. But for legal aid, it's a very serious problem. As you know, since 2012, changes to legal aid, the policy has been inadequate and not fit for the purpose. The court commissioned a report by an international group of experts in 2015, and then again by an external expert, Richard Rogers, in 2016. In his report, published in January 2017, he found, among many other things, that the pay for victims and defense team members was too low compared with the income of their counterpart in the prosecution, as well as when compared with other tribunals. The ICCBA provided its views on the legal aid reform in April 2017. The court then arranged a conference in June 2017 to invite further views from stakeholders. However, a year on, we still have not seen a new draft policy from the court. There may have been a change of leadership in the ICC registry, but this is a matter that demands great urgency. The reason it requires urgency is that the new legal aid policy has to be approved by the ASP. The ASP only meets once a year in December, usually. And for them to consider it, it has to go through the Committee of Budget and Finance first. The Committee of Budget and Finance meets in September this year. This means that if we want a new policy to have effect in 2019, it must be presented to the CPF before their session in September. Otherwise, we will not likely see any new policy coming into effect before 2020. Income tax. You heard the report from the different committees. I will not belabor that. We will make sure those recommendations are implemented. We will pursue that with renewed vigor. Improving communication. Of course, we heard much about communication, but we'll open the doors of our association to every member, to the world at large. We'll also be open to criticism. You people did not create a monster by creating these offices. You created them to serve you, and I will serve you. And I will never substitute my personal views for this organization. And like Karim Khan, I will listen to every member. The decisions that were communicated to the world, to the institutions, will be yours, not that of the president, not that of an individual. Legal representative for victims, of course, a lot have been said. They won the prize. Today, underscoring the need that the victims and the accused and counsel will have the same objectives. Is that justice. We are defending the ideas of justice, not necessarily individuals, so that this court and the institutions we serve should be seen as the guarantors of justice for all, irrespective of whom that person is. Training, 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 training. Now, one of the reasons why we must have mandatory membership is because of training. And in particular, duty council, whose statutes will respect and honor. We want that everybody should come under the association so that we can provide effective training. We cannot accept people who are otherwise qualified by coming in without knowing what's happening in the institution. That will not help our objectives. Now, of course, outreach. We want to participate in outreach. We've made that clear. The committee made that very clear. There's no need for me to. And recommendations from the committees. Your recommendations, and I say this to our colleagues who are following worldwide, your recommendation by the committees will be implemented. And all of them will be implemented. We do not make the decisions, but the competent authorities will go to them and try to convince them that they should implement this. If we fail, it will not be because we did not try. We will do that. I will inform you accordingly. And in conclusion, we hope to say council here will represent distinct values across the world. But these values have the same objective, the respect of the rule of law, and that we should remain united. We should make an appeal for everyone to come in. As I said, Karim, among the attributes, he's a professor, he teaches. He goes to different universities. We find members here, our colleagues, organize conferences. We also have our people who are going to be our representatives in the respective countries. We recognize them. We profile them in our website so that if today we say, Charles Diego Philippe, you are in charge of the Federation of Nigeria, we will make sure that he is the link. Lawyers in Nigeria and the South African will know him. If they want to organize conferences for us to come, we will come. We will make the sacrifices. And above all, we will make sure we pay our membership dues so that this organization can run. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, colleagues. And thank our colleagues listening from other parts of the world and the colleagues who have affiliated with us. We are so proud on this day that the Federation of European Bars came to sign this affiliation, and many other bars around the world will do the same. Thanks for your kind attention.
Mr. President, if I could be permitted, with your indulgence, just to say a few words after my sell-by date. Of course, everyone has seen, and I intimated earlier, that we're really honored to have the prosecutor of the ICC, Her Excellency Fatou Bensouda, with us. But before she makes her remarks, I wanted to publicly and on the record express my debt of gratitude and the debt of gratitude of the ICCBA to her and her office. Sometimes we are colleagues in the courtroom, sometimes we are adversaries in the courtroom, but always we are colleagues and professional at all times. And this year, on many occasions, we have had occasion to request the prosecutor for her support. And I can attest, and it will be acknowledged both by the Vice President for the victims, Jens Dickmann, and the current President of the court, then Vice President for the defense, that it's never been denied, ever. Particularly, I will say that when we signed our affiliation agreement, it was our very first affiliation agreement, and it was the hard work of our esteemed and respected and dear President, Chief Charles Taku. Her Excellency Fatou Bensouda sent a delegation from her office to come and witness and participate in that signing ceremony. And the representative, along with some judges of the court and the registrar of MICT and the registrar of the Special Court for Sierra Leone, witnessed that historic first affiliation agreement. Similarly, we were rather nervous these are just two examples, we were rather nervous, Madam Prosecutor, at the Assembly of State Parties. We didn't have our resources. We were a small, humble bar association. We were working at foreign premises of the court, at the United Nations, and we had a side event. And we wanted to make it a success. It was important for many reasons, particularly that year. And although you were launching an important paper in the very next room, a very important position paper for your office, it says volumes that you sacrificed your deputy, James Stewart, to come and participate in a panel discussion with Chief Charles Taku and Javier Jean Keita and myself and others. So I just want to record on the record that we really appreciate that cooperation. I think we need more of it. We are ultimately, and we've said it before you arrived, we are one bar. Whether at any moment in time one is a prosecutor or a victim's lawyer or a defense lawyer, we're united, as the President has so eloquently put, by this adherence, this love to the rule of law and the proper administration of justice. So I don't say more except to applaud you very much for your assistance over the last year and before, and for making time to come today. Thank you so much.
Dear Karim, ICCBA President, and President-elect, Mr. Taku, Dr. Taku?
He's now elected.
He's now elected?
Yes.
Well, Mr. President.
Honorary president.
Yeah. An honorary president. So I'm trying to have all the titles correct. Learned colleagues and confreres, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Allow me at the outset to express my regret for not having been able to join you this morning as I had hoped. And this was due to an unforeseen, urgent matter that required my immediate attention. So I'm really sorry I couldn't be here. I'm nonetheless very appreciative for your indulgence in accommodating my brief intervention this afternoon in the midst of this, your program, and I feel very honored to be here. I'm sincerely grateful to the organizers, in particular to Mr. Karim Khan, QC, for kindly inviting me yet again to this year's General Assembly of the ICCBA. Fondly recalling my address to you 2 years ago on the occasion of the Constitutional Convention of the ICCBA, I welcome today's opportunity to again be in your midst as we continue to pursue our shared commitment to international criminal justice through fair and efficient criminal proceedings that embrace the participation of all parties within the set legal framework and with full respect for due process and other fundamental guarantees enshrined in the Rome Statute. Today's gathering, which takes place on the eve of the 20th anniversary of the Rome Statute, presents a unique opportunity to take stock of how far we have advanced in this joint effort, all making contributions in our respective roles, which are each unique in function and critical to the overall well-functioning of the court, and indeed, the ultimate aims of the Rome Statute. There was a time in the not-so-distant past when the idea of a permanent international criminal court seemed a remote, abstract notion. Who would have imagined that just 20 years after the Rome Conference, we would be gathered here within the halls of the permanent premises of an institution that was but a mere aspiration only 2 decades ago. The fact that the ICC exists, I always say, and I submit to you, is in and of itself immensely important and should not be underestimated. The court, whilst not bereft of challenges, through its work and through the deterrent force of its shadow, is already changing the status quo for the better and creating global norms through the Rome Statute legal framework. As I have often stated, the creation of the ICC must surely be one of humanity's proudest moments. With that notion comes great responsibility. Responsibility on all of us in our respective roles to ensure that we pay homage to the Rome Statute, and we pay that homage with commitment, with resolve, with independence, and with utmost integrity. As the court matures into a pillar of a rule-based global order and the international rule of law, the institution continues to evolve, filled with life, filled with ideas and contributions of many, including dedicated and skilled individuals that are gathered here today, who contribute as participants in the court's proceedings, each one of whom doing their part, contributing to the development of legal norms which will define the institution for future generations. Advancing international criminal justice requires that each one of us, in our respective but enforcing capacities, do our part to help the institution that we all cherish, to survive the challenges it will continue to face as it evolves and progresses with its important work. Success should never lull us into complacency. Neither should failures diminish our resolve to stand up and resolutely continue on the path we started in Rome 20 years ago. All of us, as officers of this court, whether as defense counsel, whether as legal representatives of victims, or as prosecutors, again, play a crucial role before the court as indispensable parts of a Rome Statute system, and we shoulder great responsibilities. We are all in this together, all making contributions in our respective roles towards the aim of justice, the aims of justice. And it is not about winning or losing. It is about seeking the truth and ensuring that justice is rendered. We are all partners in this respect. True justice will only be rendered, and fair proceedings can only be safeguarded if there is a robust defense and the rights of persons appearing before this court are fully respected. As I mentioned 2 years ago, the main objectives of the creation of an independent association of counsel are to uphold the highest standards of professional conduct and ethics, reinforce the independence of the legal profession, and to continue ensuring the effective representation of general and collective interests of counsel before the ICC. These objectives remain as relevant and as important today as they were 2 years ago, and they benefit from my full support as prosecutor. These objectives can only benefit from the participation of an independent association of counsel, one which robustly advances its independent mandate, but also espouses a symbiotic relationship of working closely with the court to advance the aims of the Rome Statute, again, within the distinct roles we all respectively assume in the court's proceedings. I wanted to benefit from this occasion to congratulate our dear friend, our learned friend and colleague Karim, and other members of the leadership of the ICCBA for their notable contributions to advancing the important work of the ICCBA, characteristically with class, with commitment, and utmost professionalism throughout. They say an institution is only good as its people, and I think you will agree with me that under the able leadership of Karim and his colleagues, and indeed all of you, the ICCBA has achieved much, and it's on track to reach new heights. The torch has now been passed, and, as I understand just now, to the new President Kaku, assisted by other ICCBA colleagues who will carry on this important work. Ladies and gentlemen, by way of conclusion, allow me to state a conviction, which I trust you share with me. We are called to act in the face of injustice, which must be fought not with brute, unbridled force, but with the vector of the law. The Rome Statute, created 20 years ago, provides a unique framework to do so, and I feel privileged to serve its values as you are. Our greatest strength is our common resolve and commitment in the service of justice, to the widespread adoption and application of the rule of law, and accountability for the world's most serious crimes with full respect for the due process of law. Let the Rome Statute guide us as we advance in this common journey. Dear friends, the flame of international criminal justice and its protective embrace shine brightest when lit across the world, when the ICC benefits from more state party membership and inches ever closer to achieving universality. I believe that the ICCBA and its individual members representing different legal systems and regions of the world are also important partners and conduits of the message of universality. I leave that for your consideration and encourage you to explore potential synergies with the court and other partners towards this aim. I thank you very much, and I have been authorized and given the honor and privilege to declare this seminar closed. Thank you.
Madam Prosecutor, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. From your words, very powerful words, it is now known that this court, this institution, represents the true face of the world. This association also is a unique association. From all the courts we've known, in which you find victim representation, and you also have defense and the prosecution. It brought about, this association brought about completeness, and also about key constituencies in the participation in our judicial process that were ignored. To say farewell to you, in the spirit of continuity, I decline to take that honor. Only Karim is capable of doing so, because although Karim is stepping down, but Karim remains with us forever. Karim, please, I defer to you to say a word of thanks to Her Excellency, the prosecutor.
Madam Prosecutor, all I can say once again is, as Chief has put it, they're powerful words, they're keenly felt, and they give a lot of comfort to the ICCBA. We make no pretense, we are a work in progress. But the values of the ICCBA seeking to promote the voice of the victims and defense counsels and support staff and teams it really does require the power, the authority, the position of yourself as prosecutor. And really we are very touched that we've had expressions of support from the Vice President of the Court today, which has transmitted the support of the President. And really it means a lot for us to count on your support for the ICCBA and its executive and its members, but more importantly, the ideals of improving so that all parties in the courtroom can improve so that the administration of justice keeps on evolving to the betterment of the values so eloquently expressed in the preamble to the Rome Statute. So thank you once again for sparing the time. Thank you, of course, to my dear brother, Sam Shomanesh, who is now your right hand. And we're very proud that once upon a time, he was also such a key member assisting both victims and defense in CSS, so we know him so well. You've really recruited very wisely, and we're grateful that you have given the time from your schedule. We know you had meetings with heads of state today, but we're honored by your presence. So thank you so much for closing this event and for honoring all of us with your presence. Thank you so much, Madam Prosecutor.